about. So give me 1 second because this lady does a lot. So I want to make sure I cover everything. All right, guys. So our moderator for the entrepreneurship panel is going to be Miss Frida Henley. I hope I said your last name right. She has a extensive bio, so I'm going to just read some of it. So Frida serves as the VP of Publicity and Marketing at the Shields of Faith Foundation. She's the co-founder and publicist and Community Relations Director with Black Tech CLT, and through the Black Tech Interactive. She's also the co-founder of Starlit and the Just Us Group, which is an education and awareness organization for Black families impacted by autism and mental health challenges. So, Frida, I'm sure you can say a lot more about yourself than I can. I'm going to let you add on anything that you want because we had a great conversation via phone the other day. So, I'm going to let you take it away.
We did have a good conversation, but I'm not going to add on a lot. I ain't talking about myself, but because we're doing this type of panel, can you hear me okay? Because we're doing this type of panel, I will say that entrepreneurship has been the height of my life since 8 years old. My first business was literally at 8 years old. So, that being said, Mike DeBerry, is that how to pronounce your name, DeBerry? And Quentin DeBerry?
Yes.
And Tynetta, is it T or just Tynetta? Which one would you prefer? Is Tynetta here?
Yeah, she'll be on. She's joining.
Okay. So right now it's just me, Mike, and Quentin. So Mike is the founder of DeBerry Enterprises, a website design agency. And that was very interesting to me because he also is the co-founder of Live Chair Health app. That's correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Which you started from your dorm room at Claflin.
Yes, ma'am.
If I understand it, you're an HBCU grad as well.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a Savannah State Tiger.
Hey.
And Quentin, you look like you might be an HBCU grad too from your bio.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so I want to just jump right in and just say a little bit about what you all do and hit some highlights as well. I hope you don't mind if I don't read the entire bio straight out, but I will say some things. Mike, you have been featured in Black Enterprises Digital Magazine. You also won the OZY Genius Award. So I'm going to definitely ask you about that. But you raised $800,000 for your startup, your app. All of that, and you're an entrepreneur, I'm assuming full-time.
No. I got a day job too. And to answer that question, I have a team of co-founders. So it wasn't just me. I have a team. That makes that more realistic because otherwise it just seems like I don't sleep. I work 24/7 or something like that. But I have a team of awesome co-founders.
Okay. Wonderful. And so you've been featured in in of course, Black Enterprise Digital Magazine. Tell us about the app and your design agency. Do they go together? Are they very similar? Tell us about that and sort of explain both of those before I introduce Quentin.
Yes, so this all happened within a time frame of 6 years. So I started Live Chair in my junior year at Claflin University. And so since my junior year, I've been active in the tech community. I love technology and startups, so I just wanted to learn as much as possible. But in that same year, I got invited to go to Microsoft to pitch the prototype of the app. And me and my teammates, who were a group of Claflin college students, I went around to each department looking for the smartest kids in each thing, such as coding, business, marketing, and we came together to produce this prototype. And so when we went there, we finished as top 5 finalists. We got to meet Super Bowl champion Ray Lewis and make a lot of friends there who love what we were doing. So after the competition, I did the Claflin business competition. We won first place during that. And so that was more motivation to keep going. And so then I did the Ozzy Genius media competition. And basically, they were looking for 10 brilliant college students from around the nation. They had 100,000 applications, and I was one of 10 that won, and the only HBCU winner. And so the idea centered around initially trying to help barbershops get more college students in the shop, because where I was at Coffee University, South Carolina State was right next door, and there are literally like 6 to 8 barbershops right across the road. However, they had a problem with getting clients in every hour. And so I would go get a haircut, and there'd be nobody in the shop for 2 hours at a time. It'd be a ghost town. And so I was like, that's weird, because there's at least 4,000, black males that need a haircut. And they all come later, maybe at 4 o'clock. Everyone comes in at the same time, and everyone's complaining, like, why do I have to wait so long? And the barbers were like, well, if you would have came just 30 minutes earlier, there was no one in the shop. You could have been first in my chair. And then I also saw that there were a lot of college students a lot of black men that had opportunities for job interviews, but they didn't always have the money to get a fresh haircut to make a great first impression. And so I wanted to solve both of those problems together by creating Live Chair initially. And that's really how the idea came about. And then we pivoted it to now bringing healthcare services into barbershops. And so that was the big pivot that we made about a year or two ago, which is really cool. We're trying to help more minority men be aware of their health status. And so if there's something wrong, it's great if you can find out early on before it becomes a bigger, more expensive problem to solve.
Gotcha. So how do you incorporate that into the barbershop setting? Is that where the conversation takes place? Is that where they can get, some just simple things done? Explain to us how those link up.
Yes. So initially, we started providing barbers with blood pressure cuffs to start the conversation, because when we researched the Tuskegee experiment, we saw like how there was a huge medical distrust between the black community and the medical community. Primarily, one reason because of that, and then we also noticed how us as minority men, we trust our barbers. Like we can confide in them. We're more open to talking and discussing things. So we're thinking, what if we could bring healthcare into this safe space that a lot of minority men feel open and trustworthy in, and seeing, how could we help them? And so by combining the two, we were able to show people like, your health is serious. You want to take this, you want to make sure you're doing everything you can to be here the next 5 years. Because there's a lot of fathers who we saw in the barbershop. We're like, hey, you got a kid. You love your child. We know you do. What if there was something wrong with you right now, and by you not going to the doctor as much, you don't know what's going on with you. You may die, a couple years, 5-10 years earlier than you would have if you would have just went to the doctor and make sure, like, you were being healthy. And so for a lot of men, that hit home. They're like, what? I want to be there for my son when he graduates high school. I want to be there when he goes to prom. I want to be there, in his life through all these important moments. And so by taking better care of myself, I can ensure that I can be there for my family, be the best that I can be. And so that's how we initially started rolling it out. When the pandemic hit, we had to change up things, of course, because, the barbershop is a lot of close interactions and everything like that. And so we had to scale back and change up the business model a little bit. But for the most part, it's still going well. We're still back in barbershops now. We just were featured on CNN a couple weeks ago, which was awesome. So the message is spreading, and more barbers are becoming aware of this service, and they're interested in using it for their clients. And more clients are becoming aware, and they just want to take the steps that they can, to be healthier and to have a longer lasting life. So yeah.
Wonderful. That's excellent. First of all, it's brilliant. Number one, black men listen to their barbers.
Yes.
And from the looks of my hair, I've done the chop a few times. I listen to my barber too. So it's just a brilliant idea, and it's incredibly innovative. Mark Zuckerberg came up with Facebook in a dorm room with his college classmates, right? And so you are a clear example of what that could be, or what your app could end up being, and even the fact that you're on a forever pivot, right? And so that makes a lot of sense, and it's just brilliant. So congratulations to you for all of the great coverage and the money that you've raised so far, and we're about to get into some things. But Quentin, I want to pop over to you, and really with this introduction, sort of ask you the same thing, right? So you and I have a few things in common. I've worked in the music industry for several years. I saw on your bio that you were a Grammy-nominated graduate from Winston-Salem State University. That's a difference when you work in our industry. When you're a Grammy-nominated individual, that means people in your field understood that you did good work, and you've taken that, of course, to the next level. So can you explain a little about yourself, what you do, and H3 Tech Talent Management, and with that, just sort of the same as I asked Michael, what was the reason for you getting into the business that you're in and your startup?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I would say I started college as well, and I started so many business in college. College, 'cause I thought that was like the perfect incubator. At Winston-Salem State, we had about 6,000 students. I ended up being student body president, so I would test all these companies that I was in my brain on my peers. And eventually I got into music management. I ended up interning for Russell Simmons at Russ Communication, learning more about just kind of the branding and really what a music exec was, or what I thought it was.
I'm going to interrupt you. You said you went to Winston-Salem State
Yes.
University, right? And you skipped a lot, and then you said, I end up interning for Russell Simmons at Rush Communications. That's a big step.
Well, so if any of you guys remember MySpace, I actually emailed him on MySpace. I was writing my graduation speech to my peers at the time, and I wanted to say what could be cool, what could be innovative, but not corny to graduates. And remember, I graduated right at the Great Recession, so I had to leave my peers with some type of motivation. But I ended up emailing Russell Simmons on MySpace like, hey, I'm Quentin DeBerry, I'm president of my school. He ended up telling me to email some other lady. I emailed her, show her my resume. And that was my first time not my first time on a plane, my first time to New York. So I worked on the McDonald's campaign for the Big Pounder. I worked on, like, Russell Simmons designs the Jostens high school graduation gear. So I worked on that campaign. Pastries was just kind of fading out, but I worked on some pastry stuff. So it was a really unique experience working for someone that basically started hip hop. And everything I learned was outside of music. And I remember sitting in his office after helping his assistant move. And I told him, like, hey, I want to be this music exec. And he told me, like, straight up, that was the dumbest idea in the world. And I'm looking like, man, you made all this money from Def Jam. You're still getting checks. But he wanted me, the essence of the conversation was he wanted me to think a little bigger and realize using music was just a vehicle to open up a lot of these opportunities.
And his language is colorful, so I'm sure that was a fun conversation.
Yeah, it was. His language is very colorful, very, very colorful. So I come back to North Carolina, I graduate, and then I moved to Durham. In about 6 months, I was like, hey, I don't want to live in Durham. I had a friend who left Winston who was working in the music industry, and she was like, hey, P. Diddy has a junior A&R position over at Bad Boy. So I hopped in a car with one of my friends who was going to grad school. I parked my car at the time in my uncle's yard and said, please don't sell my car. And I got in the car and moved to New York. And there I worked on Last Train to Paris, which was P. Diddy's last album under, I think, Atlantic Records. But it was that time of just learning about songwriters. So my primary job there was about songwriters and producers. So I would just invite different songwriters to the studio, different musicians to the studio, and kind of set up these sessions, learning sessions of writing songs. That always stuck with me. So I started managing my own clients in terms of writers and producers. So I managed a team of writers, and we were very fortunate to write a record for Tamar Braxton on her Love and War album a few years ago. And the album was nominated for Best Contemporary Grammy for 2013.
That was album. That was great penning on that album. Great penning.
Thank you. So what I really always done is I took that approach of managing artists, managing superstars. It's the same principle of what I eventually took in H3. So I worked at Wells Fargo for about 5 years after I moved to Charlotte in 2011. Did really well, got promoted a few times, but eventually I got fired because I just think really big. I really think that I can do the job, and like, you're just not going to tell me, hey, you're not qualified. Like, I wanted to know why I'm not qualified. Tell me what I need to do and improve. I didn't really get that. So one of my friends was like, hey, you have this big social network. Why don't you get into recruiting, IT recruiting? Come to find out, IT recruiting is 90% sales. It has nothing to do with actual talent. I thought that was very unfortunate. I remember my first day in the office, there were 3 black recruiters in the office. Myself, a guy that had been there 5 or 6 years, and another young lady who started with me. I also have a lot of minority friends that we were all college graduates, we were all doing well, but we were stuck in entry-level jobs. And so what my thing was like, oh, all of this stuff they ever told us about getting a job is absolutely wrong. So fast forward to about a year ago, or May 2019, I had this random idea like, hey, after reading this book called H3 by Brad Lomenick, which stands for Hustle, Hungry, and Humble, we developed H3, the technology management company, where we focus on people in community and technology and entrepreneurship. And so the goal is to take that same concept of managing artists, superstars, but now we're applying that to professional people. So now our company basically manages your professional career, giving you the same hand service of like I would do if you were my client as an artist. So that means the young man, Michael, who the young people that don't have haircuts, we make sure you're presentable for your interviews. We make sure you have the technology stack for your interview. We just make sure that you're well-rounded. So when you go or you leave the H3 ecosystem, you're very much prepared. The money generated inside of our business is staffing because I came from that arena. So we sign your typical staffing agreements with companies, both locally and nationwide. But the premise of our company is to provide a safe space for minority talent so that they're getting that signature touch of how do I elevate my career from point A to point B. We all know that Charlotte particularly is ranked 50 out of 50 when it comes to economic mobility. We're able to take some of those call center people and teach them basic business analyst skills and take them from $14, $15, $16 an hour to now $40 to $50 an hour within a certain time frame. So our business is a traditional staffing firm mixed with my entertainment industry background.
That's so dope. Okay, we're gonna come back to that and put a pin in that because you and I could probably talk for a year. And so, Tynetta, is it T? Would you prefer T or Tynetta? Are you there? I see her.
I think she's on mute.
There we go.
Hey. We have you now. Give me the proper way to say your name. I don't like mispronouncing people's names.
It's perfectly fine. It's Tynetta, but everybody calls me T.
Okay, T. Well, we're going to call you T. All right. So T is, just for everyone that maybe missed the first few minutes of the introduction, T is a gamer and a serial creative. And I love the way that is described, that you're a gamer and a serial creator, because entrepreneurs should be serial creators, right? And you are the founder of Level 1 Gaming and Technology Solutions. You're also the founder of the Launch Box and One Kid or iKid, Kidpreneur? Kidpreneur. Kidpreneur and Youth Collaborative. And that is a program that you have, or is that a separate business?
That's actually a program that I have that actually stems from Level 1 Gaming. And it basically takes younger kids from elementary all the way through high school, and it takes them from, maybe they're not into gaming, but they're into some sort of tech entrepreneurship, or they have some type of tech goal, and they want to turn that into their business. And it's helping them find those resources to shift them to bridge that gap.
I think that's very interesting. And I want you to sort of explain to us why you got into, knowing that we know that you're a gamer now, but why launch a company like you did, and what exactly does your company do? And then we're going to get into the nitty gritty, because I understand what the team for this panel, I understand what they did, and I understand it a lot better now that we're all speaking. right? So tell us why gaming, why the gaming and technology solutions, and how you got started with that.
Well, I've always been a gamer. I mean, my very first computer game was Oregon Trail. My very first video game was Mario on PlayStation, and I had the super ultra ooper duper what they call the power pad, which I still have from the original Nintendo. And I just always had a love for games. Always had a love for technology and computers, and it's always a game is a problem, and it needs to be solved. And I'm a problem solver. And so I guess you can say I'm like the Olivia Pope of gaming, because I'm going to find out what's going on. It's a problem. I love it. And so and it allows me to be uber creative. And then when I got to college, I also figured out, hey, this is a great way to pick up guys. So I went to I went to A&T.
Play a little Call of Duty.
Yes, Call of Duty. Yes. Call of Duty tournament. Yes. So Call of Duty tournament is where all the guys would be. So of course, the guys are there, the girls are there. You like uber super cool if you could game. And so I would beat the snot out of probably about 50% of the guys. And a lot of them are just like really best friends now. But I mean, that was the overall intention. But just as I went through going through college and having my own kids and saw that they were into gaming, I started seeing, okay, you know what, this is different. I was like, okay, the kids are liking it. They're problem solving. They're being creative. They're expressing themselves. Minecraft, they're learning coding. I'm like, okay, this is a business. And then I started looking into other different facets. I became a video game tester at the RDU, the Raleigh Durham incubator up there, where they house about 10 video game companies from the West Coast. So I was one of the first people to test out one of the, not the first Call of Duty, but the Black Ops, in addition to Assassin's Creed. And so they loved the fact that I was a woman. They loved the fact that I was a mom. They loved the fact that I was a gamer, and I was uber cool. And I mean, it just became something that I just fell in love with, and I continue to love to this day.
It's so interesting because listening to all of your stories and thinking about my past as an entrepreneur, I said, I think before you got on, Steve, that I started my first business at 8. And it was one of those, okay, I'm 8, and in my brain, I need my own money. We had just moved to Atlanta. I'm originally from Fayetteville. We just moved to Atlanta. I needed my own money. I needed to help out. And I go to school downtown Atlanta or, in Atlanta. So I'm not allowed to go to the candy lady. Let me send someone, right? And I send someone to this candy lady, and they're now working for me. I give them a cut. I give them a percentage. We sell the candy. I make the profit. And the person that I sent to go get the candy did the same thing. When they shut my candy business down, I started selling pencils, right? And school supplies. My mom was a teacher, so I would clean out the cabinet at home and disperse. So it sort of grew. And a lot of you, well, all of you, what I'm hearing is you already had a thing. Right? And a lot of times when people are looking at entrepreneurs or people are looking at business owners and innovators, the first question is, well, how did you know that was it? Or how did you know that was what you wanted to do? And everyone on this panel has said, I had a thing, right? Quentin knew that he was an entrepreneur, and he was really, really good at pivoting, clearly, because wherever he was looking at it from a business perspective, right? Michael knew he saw a problem, he solved the problem. And you, T, you are the epitome of problem solvers because you're a gamer. And like you said, games are just problems waiting to be solved. They basically are built for us to solve them. So with that, I will ask all of you, if you had to consult, right? What I did was with all of my businesses and all of the lanes that I sort of drive in, and Quentin, you can relate to this. Nothing is different from industry to industry. It's basically all the same. So what transferable skills do you think are key when it comes to being an entrepreneur, regardless of the industry, but specifically in your industry? What skills can people just pick up or that people already have with their passions that can be used to help drive their entrepreneurship? Whoever wants to go first, you can jump up and go first.
I'll start.
Okay.
I think for me, it's the ability to be a visionary and the ability to communicate very quickly and efficiently. One thing you'll work, I think I have a very unique experience being able to work for both Russell Simmons and P. Diddy. The insight and forethought you get. One thing I've really learned is just communicating and hire great people or put the best people around you, regardless of what industry you're in. Michael talked about he went to every dorm room. Tayanetta, you talked about just being able to read the room. For your industry, for me, it's just communicating your goals, what problem are you solving, and the solutions, and you can figure the rest of the things out. I knew nothing about recruiting, but 7 months in, I became a recruiter with 17 starts in a row. I knew nothing about writing songs, but I knew that if I put really talented people together, like some magic will happen. So me just being able to communicate and just having the ability to see things faster and clear.
That's good. That's really, really good. What about you, Michael?
One of the things I always tell people, I think it's a good thing to try to learn as many softwares as possible. A lot of times when I speak to people, they might be telling me, they have this huge problem and they're about to spend, maybe $10,000 to build something to solve that problem. But it might be a software out there that charges you $5 a month that does that exact thing you're about to pay all this money for. And so I always encourage people, learn how to use these softwares that are out here that are either free or very cheap. Have that open-minded mindset, like Canva, for instance. You don't have to spend all this money on a graphic designer. If you can learn how to use Canva, you could be promoting your business on social media live, and people be thinking, wow, like, you must have got a really good graphic design on your team, but it's not. It's just you. You learn how to use this software. You needed a website. You learn how to use WordPress or Wix, and you just keep on applying that to just other types of software. There's a software for everything nowadays, and if you got the time to do your research to find it and the time to put in to learn how to work it, you can really save yourself a lot of time and money, from finance to websites to you name it. If you need something for your business, just have that open mind and willingness to learn, how to use these softwares, and don't think you have to spend, tens of thousands of dollars to get something. There might be something out there that's cheap or free that you can utilize. So.
Yeah. What about you?
I would say know your audience, know your demographic, and don't be afraid to tap into some unknown markets. For example, I used to be a party promoter. I started party promoting. Why? Because I knew that guys like to game. And I knew that other guys in different, your gamer is not a nerdy guy sitting with glasses. It is a 35-year-old male with a job making between $45,000 to maybe $60,000 a year, and they're looking to blow off some steam. So instead of, you have to be able to step outside that box. So by stepping into, I guess you can say, club life or party life, I was able to create an experience where I could create an entire gaming tournament based off of my audience just from that party scene or